Dear students, welcome to my channel. Once again, we are going to crack a MCQ from endocrinology. The MCQ is the most consistent feature of Conn syndrome is. The option is whether it is A. Hyponatremia, B. Edema, C. Hypokalemia, D. Metabolic acidosis. Before going in detail about the MCQ, first we will see what is mineralocorticoid or what is aldosterone, and then we'll go to the finally go to the question proper. We all know that above the kidney there is a gland called as suprarenal gland. The suprarenal gland is also called as adrenal gland. We all know that the adrenal gland consists of three layers: glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis. The outermost layer is glomerulosa, the middle layer is fasciculata, zona fasciculata, and the inner layer is zona reticularis. So the zona glomerulosa of adrenal cortex secretes an hormone called as aldosterone. So the aldosterone is an hormone is secreted by the zona glomerulosa of adrenal cortex, and it is called as mineralocorticoid. Why it is called as mineralocorticoid? Because it is going to balance the mineral level in our body. So that is why it is called as mineralocorticoid. In this picture, we will see what is renin first. This is a structure of a nephron, and this is called as macula densa. Macula densa is nothing but a distal convoluted tubule which come in contact with the afferent and efferent arteriole of the same nephron. So whenever there is decreased sodium chloride to the distal convoluted tubule, it is sensed by the macula densa and it sends signals to the juxtaglomerular cells which is present in the adjacent to the macula densa. Inside the juxtaglomerular apparatus, what happens is because of the decreased sodium, it transcribes so many genes and renin is produced. So this picture explains well the relation between sodium and renin. So whenever there is a decreased sodium level or decreased sodium is being in the distal convoluted tubule, it is sensed by the macula densa and which in then produces the renin. So it is evident from the previous slide, whenever there is decreased sodium delivery to the distal convoluted tubule or when there is decrease in renal perfusion, that is hypotension, will lead to increased renin production from the kidney. The primary function of the renin is the conversion of angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1. Angiotensinogen is a protein which is produced from the liver, is converted into angiotensin 1 by the renin. Then angiotensin 1 is being converted into angiotensin 2 by the enzyme called as angiotensin converting enzyme. This angiotensin converting enzyme is mainly produced from the pulmonary endothelium and to a small extent by the kidney. So the renin converts the angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1 and angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2 by ACE. This angiotensin 2 now acts upon the adrenal gland cortex and produces the aldosterone. Thus aldosterone is produced in the adrenal cortex. So forget about all the other actions of angiotensin 2. We will concentrate only on the aldosterone. So from this slide it is clearly evident that what is the function of aldosterone. The aldosterone will lead to tubular sodium and chloride reabsorption and potassium excretion, and also it causes water retention. So with all these effects, what is going to happen is the effective circulating volume is going to increase, which is going to increase the perfusion of juxtaglomerular apparatus. So it will go and now stop the renin production. So it is now very clear, whenever there is decreased perfusion to the kidney, renin will be produced. The renin will help in the formation of angiotensin 2 that will turn produces aldosterone secretion. This aldosterone secretion will increase the effective circulating blood volume and the blood pressure is restored. So because of this is also called as renin angiotensin aldosterone axis or ROS. So in the slide, we are going to see how the aldosterone will help in the reabsorption of sodium. So first the aldosterone diffuses through the capillary membrane and it reaches the interstitial fluid and then it enters the ductal cell. Mainly the epithelial sodium channel is going to express in the distal convoluted tubule and mainly in the collecting duct, especially in the principal cells of the collecting duct. So the aldosterone binds to the mineralocorticoid receptor here, and this receptor complex then moves into the nucleus where the transcription and translation of both the epithelial sodium chloride channel and sodium potassium ATPase pump occurs, which will lead to the incorporation of the sodium potassium ATPase pump and epithelial sodium channel incorporation in the collecting duct and also in the distal convoluted tubule, which leads to the transfer of sodium from the tubular lumen into the ductal cell and transfer of sodium ion from the ductal cell to the interstitial fluid and then to the capillary. Thus, it increases the sodium reabsorption. So finally, to conclude that decrease in blood pressure or decreased salt will lead to the production of a renin. Renin in turn produce aldosterone. This aldosterone will help to balance the water and electrolyte control and it restores the normal blood pressure and normal blood potassium. So this is the homeostasis which is occurring in our body. So with the knowledge about the aldosterone, now we'll go to the syndrome called as Conn syndrome. Conn syndrome is also called as primary hyperaldosteronism. That is, it is because of any adrenal tumor, adrenal hyperplasia, it leads to increased aldosterone level in our body, which leads to, because we know already the function of aldosterone, it increases sodium reabsorption. Because of the increased sodium reabsorption, you may experience the high blood pressure, and also we know the function of aldosterone is the decrease in the potassium level, so it will lead to low blood potassium level in our body, which can lead to fatigue in the individual. So and also because of this mineral imbalance, the concentrating ability of the kidney is lost, so it leads to polyuria. So from this it is evident the clinical features of Conn syndrome are high blood pressure or hypertension, low blood potassium, which is also called as hypokalemia, and tiredness due to hypokalemia is called as fatigue, and because of the low concentrating ability of the kidney, the polyuria occurs. So these are the clinical features of Conn syndrome. So with the basic concepts, now we can rule out the other option and find out the correct option. The most consistent feature of Conn syndrome, the option A is hyponatremia. It is very clear that Conn syndrome will lead to hypertension, so the hypernatremia will be coming here. So hyponatremia is ruled out. Coming to the edema, since there is a water retention, we can expect edema, but edema is not the feature of primary hyperaldosteronism. I will explain this in my next slide now. And then coming to the hypokalemia, this is the correct answer, since because we know that increased aldosterone causes the excess excretion of potassium, so it leads to hypokalemia. And metabolic acidosis, no, the hypokalemia will always lead to metabolic alkalosis by causing the secretion of hydrogen ion into the lumen. So the answer to the question is the most consistent feature of Conn syndrome is hypokalemia. Now coming to the bonus tip, that is aldosterone escape. In the option we saw edema as a option, but the aldosterone escape explains why in hyperaldosteronism there is no edema. So whenever there is increased aldosterone, we always know this plasma volume expansion, but this plasma volume expansion, what will lead is it leads to stretching of cardiomyocytes, which leads to the secretion of atrial natriuretic factor and which causes natriuresis. And also this plasma volume expansion will leads to increased renal blood flow, increased peritubular hydrostatic pressure, and also leads to the natriuresis. So because of this, in spite of increase in aldosterone, in primary hyperaldosteronism, the patient will not experience the edema. So this is called as aldosterone escape. So based on this, So we have one more MCQ. A patient with Conn syndrome is hypertensive but does not show gross edema. The reason is option A, decreased aldosterone secretion, B, decreased sodium intake, C, aldosterone escape phenomenon, D, increased sympathetic activity. So answer to the question is the aldosterone escape phenomenon because of the secretion of atrial natriuretic factor from the cardiac muscle. So in spite of hyperaldosteronism, primary hyperaldosteronism, there is no edema because of aldosterone escape phenomenon. So the other interesting part of this presentation is you can find out what is glucocorticoid remediable aldosteronism. It will be very fascinating to find out what is this. So students, all the best and kindly subscribe my channel for further videos. Thank you.